Hey guys, it's Erin with Happily We Go, and today we're going to do a little bit of watercoloring and stenciling. So first we're just going to start with a 9x12 watercolor piece of paper taped down, and you'll notice it's taped to my giant Misti because I couldn't find a board big enough. So hey, use what you've got, right? So I'm just going to throw some colors on and then we'll get to playing. So make sure that you dry in between your watercolor layers. And now you're probably asking yourself, what the heck is she doing with these colors once that yellow goes down? But I promise I do have a plan, so just stick with me and you'll see what happens. Alright, so here we go with the stencils. If you know me by now, you know I have a stencil obsession. I have way too many of them, and every time I go to the store, I swear I buy another one. But that's okay, because I'm going to use them a lot. So with this technique, you're just going to take a little bit of watercolor, you really don't need a lot, and a makeup wedge. You can get them anywhere, Walmart, Target, dollar store probably. And you're just going to put a little bit of the color on a palette. I'm using an old microwave tray. Our microwave died and I was like, wait, don't throw that out. This could be great for color mixing. So that's what that is. But you just need a little bit, you put it on the sponge and then you dab it where you want it on the stencil. Now the important thing is to dry in between each stencil. When you're finished with the color, take your heat tool and just run it over the stencil. You don't have to melt your stencil to your page. You really don't need a lot of heat, because you're honestly not using a lot of color. There's just a very little bit of color, but that sponge will make it go really far. There's leftover color in the sponge, so make sure that you don't keep using the same sponge for every color or you're gonna end up with a whole lot of brown. See, that's where that yellow came in, and I think it looks pretty good. So we're just gonna continue doing the same technique through the rest of the stencils. I'll just throw on some music and let you watch and pop back in a few. you can also hold your stencils too, because if it's in an awkward spot, you really don't want to have to tape it down and risk ripping up your paper from the tape. But the main thing to make sure is when you're doing just part of a stencil, you kind of wipe around the edges, as you can see I'm doing here, so that way you don't have a straight line with your stencil, so it kind of blends out evenly into the background. Now remember, I said those sponges kept a little bit of the color inside of them, so you can take them and take the edges and just kind of blend around wherever you'd like and add some shading. Another great thing about watercolors is if you get it somewhere that you don't want it, just take a paintbrush with a little bit of water, slap it on, and then take a paper towel and dab it off. It's as easy as that. So sometimes art can be scary, like knowing when to commit to how and where a stencil is going to go, but you just have to do it. And remember when I told you not to tape things down? Well, I guess I'm breaking my own rules here. I've used this tape the entire time, so the sticky is not that sticky. If you're going to try and use new tape, stick it on your arm and rip it off a couple times, just so that way you don't risk it sticking and pulling up, ripping your paper. I just love this part, like seeing the face just emerge from the paint. So, did you see what I did right there? Oops, just pulled off that paper. But it's not a big deal. Just take your paintbrush and a little bit of the paint and just dab it right on. Again, the beauty of watercolors. You can also get a fine detail brush and then just some of the straight color from the palette and add little hints of detail here and there to spice up the page as well. Now, I went ahead and traced the letters around the stencil with a pencil, so it's not just watercolor and stencils. But as you'll see later on, I just went ahead and used the paint straight through the stencil and took out that extra step, and it worked just fine. I don't necessarily have the steadiest hand ever. I'm trying to get over my perfectionism, so maybe the lines are a little wonky, or maybe they're just not straight, but as this sentiment is going to stay in the end, I'm going to trust my journey. We don't have to be perfect in everything. We just have to enjoy what we're doing and what we're creating, and that's all that really matters. One extra little tip I'm going to throw out there. Before each letter, after you dry it, make sure that you wipe off the back of the stencil, because if there's extra paint left on the stencil, you don't want to lay it down and end up with color in an area that maybe you don't want it. So just be cautious and take that extra step. I decided to come back in with a drawing pencil and a smudger just to add a little bit of shadow to the letters. They didn't really need it, but I just thought I would do it anyways. I hope you enjoyed watching this watercolor and stencil journey and that you're going to try it for yourself soon. Thanks so much for watching.